Hi, this is Daryl Myatt from Keller, Texas. Today is Wednesday, February 17th, 2010. Let's talk today about this whole global warming thing. I think we have probably seen a cooling off of that recently, pun intended. A lot of things going on with that. In fact, earlier this week, CNN announced that for the first time ever, all 50 states in America had snow at the same time. So all 50 states of the United States had snow on the ground, including Florida, Hawaii, Louisiana, Mississippi. All 50 states had snow. I know at my house I had about 14 inches of fresh powder. Built snowmen, had snowball fights, built the forts, the igloos, the whole 9 yards. We had a blast. It was fun for about a day. After that, you're like, okay, time for the snow to go. But it's nice today. It's 60 degrees. Gotta love winter in Texas. Anyway, let's read some of this. I can't help but think that God, in His sense of humor, totally shut Washington in with all that snow when the whole climate gate thing was at its peak. I just think it's hilarious that God's like, yeah, here's 5 feet of snow. Where's your global warming now? So, let's talk about it. We know they were using this whole global warming thing as an excuse to create a world government. I'm curious to see, with all this cooling off of this global warming thing, what they're going to use as an excuse now for creating a world government. They will create one, I promise you. It's prophesied in the Bible, so it will happen. Let's read a few things, though, today and see what we can glean from this. This first story is from dailymail.co.uk, and it says, ClimateGate U-turn as scientist at center of Roe admits there has been no global warming since 1995. The data for this vital hockey stick graph has gone missing. There's been no global warming since 1995, and warming periods have happened before, but not due to man-made changes. I was reading a report yesterday that said if we got rid of every car in the world, everything that burned fuel, like jets, planes, boats, cars, motorcycles, if we got rid of all of that, we would decrease the amount of CO2 emissions by 1%. Okay, the report went on to say if we got rid of every cow in the world, we would reduce the CO2 emissions by 25%. So cows create more ozone and climate changes to the world than man does. Okay? Yeah, chew on that one for a little while. So it just strikes me as odd that you've got people like Al Gore and the leader of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, and some of these other people saying, "Oh, we must get this under control." They had the whole thing in Copenhagen. They are going to have another Copenhagen conference. They're still going to try to get this whole global government thing going. I mean, we've already got the World Bank, we've got the World Court, we've got the World Health Organization. We've got the World Trade Organization. We have so many international government offices that it's going to happen. Okay, we will see a world government. I, for one, don't like it. That'll pretty much mean that the United States will lose their national sovereignty. We will no longer, our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence will not our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence will basically become null and void. It will be a useless piece of paper because we'll have to then follow an international declaration of unity, not of independence. I really hope that doesn't happen. I hope at some point along the way that America secedes from the whole UN thing and that we become our own entity and don't follow this whole global government thing. I would like to see that happen. I'd like to see America become a safe haven for Christians, actually. Just kind of my dream, I guess. Anyway, just several of these stories today, reading from WSJ.com, the Wall Street Journal, saying the continuing climate meltdown, it's just not happening. Global warming is not a proven fact. In fact, it has actually cooled slightly. by about 2% of 1 degree over the last 120 years globally. Now, sure, you'll find spots that have probably warmed a little bit, but on a global scale, the whole world is cooling slightly. So, curious to see how they're going to use this, what spin they're going to put on it to try to still create their world government. There's a group called Socialist International, SI, that is one of the planet's most influential organizations, but it's virtually unknown to most Americans since it's rarely mentioned in the U.S. media. But for the past 2 weeks and throughout all of January, the headline story at the top of the homepage of Socialist International website boasted of the organization's prominent influence and clout at the recently concluded United Nations Climate Change Summit in Copenhagen, Denmark. So there's still a whole lot of people still pursuing this global government thing. Here's another story in the Wall Street Journal: defections shake up climate coalition. You know, there's all kinds of stories. There's three big companies, BP, PLC, and ConocoPhillips, and Caterpillar Incorporated said they won't renew their membership in the 3-year-old U.S. Climate Action Partnership. I think this is hilarious. Anyway, so let me just read to you from Isaiah 9, verses 6 through 7. This is one way we know there will be a world government. You probably know this one. Isaiah 9, verse 6 through 7. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. Okay, we know there's going to be a one world government. We know there is. It's prophesied in several books of the Bible. You know, I want to read to you something. This really strikes me because I want to read from Romans 8:29 and 30. Now, this kind of goes off the whole world government thing, but something I just want you to consider today. Romans 8:29 through 30. And we know that in all things... Oh, that's 28. Okay. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. And those he predestined, he also called. And those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified. Now, there's something incredible being communicated to us in this passage, and if you're not careful, you might miss it, because it's very subtle. But it's found in the single and unassuming word, glorified. When you pull back and you look at this verse, you can see that it's tracking the progress of God's influence in our lives. First, he predestined us. Next, he called us. Then, he justified us. Okay? Those are all things that have been accomplished in our past. Okay? God chose us, he drew us near, and then he canceled our debt against him based on what Jesus did on the cross. But notice that it doesn't end there. The verse goes on to state that God also glorified us, so that, just so we're clear, the word glorified refers to the final, completed, perfected state that we will all attain in heaven. All of those who believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior and have turned to him and asked for forgiveness of their sins. So, that's the final state, okay? So, I think somewhere on the grand scale of things, you know, obviously we're not quite to the glorified state, but there are those he's predestined, there are those he has called, and there are those he's justified, okay? So, glorified is the next step. Many of us have been called to share the good news of Jesus Christ with the world, and we see that going on all over the place. Let me go to 1 John 2, verse 16 and 17. Let's see. For everything in the world, the cravings of sinful man, the lust of his eyes, and the boasting of what he has and does, comes not from the Father, but from the world. The world and its desires pass away, but the man who does the will of God lives forever. Let's jump over to 1 John 5, 3 through 5. This is love for God, to obey His commands, and His commands are not burdensome, for everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. Who is it that overcomes the world? Only he who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. That's how you overcome the world, people. We're going to see this world government. We don't have to bow to its authority, though. We have a higher authority in heaven, and He's coming back. Let's read Revelation 3, verse 10. And this was Jesus talking to John in Revelation. And Revelation 3:10 says, "Since you have kept my command to endure patiently, I will also keep you from the hour of trial that is going to come upon the whole world to test those who live on the earth." Listen, don't fear. God bless you. Get on your knees. I'll see you tomorrow.